Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Fake Philosophers. All 70 of you watching. I, of course, am Mike, and with me is Danny.
Hi. It's very pretentious of you to say it's an amazing show, but
Someone's got to hype us up.
usually you leave the hype man who's somebody not involved with the project. But it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's
It's
fine.
fine. It's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
All right. Let's just skip the pleasantries. Get right into it.
Yeah.
I have a fresh, unique grocery gripe. I know we have bitched about the typical things, the carts being left in parking spots, people in the express lane, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What happened today? And it just puzzled me. I wasn't even mad. I was just kind of like, really? I know a lot of grocery stores are different, but the few Vons I've been to over the last few years, they usually, like, when you walk up, not the cart corrals in the parking lot, but you walk up and they have, like, where the grocery carts go, where you
Like
pick
the
them
main
up.
corral.
Yeah. And so the Vons I've been going to, two different Vons for the last couple years. It's like a very slim aisle, if you will. Like it's just big enough to fit one row of carts. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So today there was like only like 5 carts in it. So like it was kind of far in, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't, it's not just right at the edge. You have to kind of walk into the aisle thing and then pull a cart out.
Okay.
If that makes sense. And so a girl ahead of me, like she walked in and it was kind of awkward her backing up trying to pull the cart out, but I sat to the side and waited. And then I went in to go grab a cart. And when I walked in and I was grabbing a cart, I looked behind me and this woman is returning her cart and she just puts it in behind me and walks
Like
away.
right behind you.
Yeah, like not
Essentially trapping you.
sure. So it wasn't like right behind me, but like it was still like trapping me in in the cart lane, if you will. And I kind of like glanced at her, and I think she just did it and walked away, like she didn't want to look at me.
Like
Like
fuck you.
I don't know. It was just kind of like I kind of just looked at her like, "Are you fucking serious?" And it was just it's not even the grocery store's fault or anything. It just was a weird
Oh.
thing that happened. And I was kind of like, okay, so I just let go of the one I had, walked over, and just kind of pushed hers out and used hers. Uh, I don't know. It was such a small thing, but it was just so weird to me.
Were you wearing any clothing that would suggest that maybe you worked there? Maybe she's
Still,
just kind of like handing it off. But still, I know, like here, you fucking take care of that. You work here.
well, no, because even if I worked there, she didn't like place it next to the lane. She literally pushed it in, like she was putting it back. So even if I worked there, I now have to push it out to get out. So I don't. It again, small thing, but it was a weird thing. I don't know why.
No, I mean that is like that's something that's super fucked up. Like there's
Yeah.
no like thinking outside of the self. Like she's like, fuck everybody else and what they're doing. I got my own shit to do. And it's like, fuck you. That makes you subhuman in my regards. Like that makes you like scum. That is shit heel stuff. Like
I agree. It was
no,
just
I mean it's
the only reasoning, like not maybe an excuse. I'm not defending her, but the only kind of defense I could have is maybe she was just kind of like in her head. She had a long day, and she like because when I say she like turned and walked away, like on purpose. You could tell she didn't want to look at me. So the only thing I think of is that maybe she just like pushed it in, then noticed me, but then it was too late. She was ashamed. I don't know. It was just weird. It was just weird.
then you make a gesture or a sound, you go, ah! You know,
It was just weird.
however quick. But, like, no, that's fucked up. Like, I don't care how rough a day you have. Compartmentalize that shit. Like, blow up when you get fucking home.
Yeah, and like I said, I wasn't even mad about it. It was just weird.
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
It's still fucked up. And it's like, it's a pattern, like, I've noticed happening now. It's just like, and, like, I know somebody did a study where they just, like, analyzed how much people are becoming assholes, like in the last couple of years, and a lot of it happened because of the pandemic and because of like being locked down and being like people just forgot how to be decent human beings, or just said fuck it, we're done being decent,
Well,
and like now we're still dealing with it.
yeah, and I remember it's not a scientific study. It was very much just anecdotal, but a lot of like the bar groups I'm in on Facebook and shit, bar and restaurant groups, like a lot of people were talking about how coming out of the pandemic, how people were just fucking awful.
Yeah.
Where you'd think they'd be grateful, but instead they went the other route.
And I'm wondering, like, what the fuck happened?
I have my theories.
Like, just no human interaction, and they just lose social grace.
Well, my theory, and this, because in my experience, like the regulars we had before the pandemic, once things started opening up, they were kind of acting like they did before. Some of them were kind of a little obnoxious. Because it's like, hey man, we have to follow these pandemic rules, and they're like, oh fuck yourself, it's all fit, whatever. But outside of that, I think I've talked about it on the show before. We've talked about this, Danny. We've talked about this.
Talked about this before, yeah.
No,
it's true. True story.
It's true story. I call it the St. Patrick's Day effect.
Oh yeah.
Have I said that before on this?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you said that before on the show, but you've definitely told me about the St. Patrick's Day effect.
Yeah. So, for the 7 of you listening, the St. Patrick's Day effect is on St. Patrick's Day. People who don't normally go out, go out. And so that's where it's a shit show. People don't know how to act. People are getting fucking too hammered. They're throwing up. They're, in my experience, pissing at the bar. And it's a nightmare. And the reason is because people who don't go out normally decide to go out. Now, this is anecdotally, of course, but as things were reopening, I would say this started around January and February of 2021. As things were starting to really reopen, I think a lot of people, because I saw a lot of new faces that I'd never seen before. And so I think a lot of people who hadn't gone out, even before, the pandemic, are now like, hey, businesses suffered. Let's go out. Like, we might as well. We're allowed to. Like, not allowed to, you know what I mean? Like, people are going out now. Let's go out. So you had this wave of, this is just my experience. I could be wrong. You had a wave of people who weren't people who normally went out, going out regularly now, and they don't know how to act. So now they don't understand the wait times when you order food. They don't understand actual liquor pours in your drink. Like, they don't understand this shit. So, if you're someone who sits at home for 5 years and you pour your whiskey over the rocks and you fill it to the top, and you go out and a whiskey on the rocks is half that, and it costs you like $7, you're gonna be like, what the fuck is this? Because you're just not used to it. And that's my theory, as far as specifically in the restaurant industry anyway.
And have you noticed whether or not, like, people, like industry people or people that work in retail or customer service, have they kind of slid back, or are they still, like, courteous and considerate when it comes to, strictly speaking, in your restaurant?
I think for the most part, at my place and other places, people, at least in my industry, I can't talk about like other customer service jobs, but because at the end of the day, and I mean, we can go off on another tangent, but a server, a bartender, etc., if they're working for tips, the last thing a rational one wants to do is piss off their customers. Like, you want to please. So I think for the most part, I would say no. I would say the industry itself is still on, at least they attempt to be on point. The shitty servers are going to be shitty, but the ones who take their job seriously are going to try to be nice and friendly and considerate and give good service.
Well, I mean, that's a given, because like we all want to get paid, so we all put on the mask, and we're gritting our teeth through the mask. But you see a smile, always a smile. But really, we're just kind of, I want to kill this bitch. What I meant was, like, industry people who come into your restaurant.
Oh, you mean like they're off the clock and they're just coming in?
Yeah, off the clock.
Oh, God. I thought you meant people
maybe
working.
Not people who work at your bar, but maybe people that that work in the industry that come in.
Yeah. I mean, it would be case by case, because even before the pandemic, there was a young lass who worked for us who wasn't a bad bartender. She was a great bartender, but then when she got off the clock, she was a shit customer. She was obnoxious, borderline rude. Like, she was still a pal, but she was like one of those customers who just got on your fucking nerves. And I even told her, I'm not talking shit. I said to her face one time, I was like, you are a shit customer. And for someone in the industry, that astonished me. But for the most part, I would say No, I would say they're fine. Because I think they're empathetic to what you're going through because they're going through it. But again, I haven't really worked like as a bartender in a long time, so I couldn't say 100% sure. But from the little knowledge I have, like I think the industry people are going to be industry people and they're fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's always going to be the shitty ones, but what are you going to do?
Oh yeah. But usually, like those shitty people who come to your industry people are shitty while they're doing their job as well.
Depending on who you're talking to, yeah, depending.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the grocery gripe of just getting blocked in the cart corral. Getting trapped. And then, I asked you about this off camera before we started. I saw a meme, and I actually think, you know how, like, memes aren't taken seriously, but sometimes a meme is actually fucking genius.
Yes. Yeah.
So I saw a meme. Huh?
Very rare.
Very rare.
They're very rare, but they do happen.
Yeah, so I forgot the exact wording, but pretty much this meme said, this person I know reposted it. Most games, I think he kind of was referring to like RPGs for the most part, and maybe some action games, should have a buddy mode. Where if you activate buddy mode, the second controller is activated, and it's meant to be given to like your little brother. Or a young child, your son, your nephew. And so then a second character appears on the screen, and that character's like strength is off maybe not like the attack strength, but like hit points, right? HP?
Yeah, hit points.
HP. Their HP is off the chain. Maybe their strikes are low, their striking points, but their HP is off the chain. That way, you could, your little brother, your nephew, your son, whatever, can play with you, or daughter, or niece, can play with you, not really affect the game, but at least they're doing something and they feel like they're helping.
Yeah.
I remember I read that and I was like, that's actually a fucking genius marketing idea for people who play games and have, younger siblings or kids or nieces and nephews or something. I don't know. I just thought I legitimately like thought about it and I was like, that's fucking brilliant. Thoughts?
I think it's a good idea. I would change it to little buddy mode.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely. Because we've all been there. We've all been the little kid in a group of serious gamers who are just like, yeah, here, take this controller, and like all you have to do is look and see that it's not plugged in, or the batteries are dead or whatever. But it's like, you're playing. Hey, you're doing a great job, buddy.
Yeah.
We've all been on the receiving end of that, and I'm sure we've all done it, at least once.
Yeah, and I've played like games with my nephew in the past, and it's excruciating trying to get through the level, trying to guide them. I remember one of my sister's kids. I played the Lego Avengers game with them, and it was his game. Like I was playing with him, but like it was just a fucking nightmare trying to get him through the level. Yeah. And so maybe that was like, so when I read that meme, I was like, that's actually brilliant, especially if like maybe they post it on like next to the rating. Like, A, for everyone, also, this has a little buddy mode. Like, you know how many parents would buy that fucking game? Now that they know that, like, they could play with their kid and not want to kill the kid. I don't know. It's a small thing. I thought it was just a cool idea.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, that's a great idea. And I would love to hear our viewers, what they think about that.
Their thoughts?
Their thoughts, yeah. Their opinions. Because your opinions matter.
They do.
A little bit.
All right. I have one more thing, and then we'll get to the big topic of time travel and movies that you wanted to get to.
Okay.
So, I've recently watched a few old movies. One being Sister Act 2. You're familiar?
Okay. Is that the one with Lauryn Hill?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Are you familiar? Like you can recall the story, you could recall scenes, or no?
Only because we've had a discussion about this before.
Okay. And then I also recently watched the original Mighty Ducks movie, number 1.
Okay, that one I am super familiar with.
Okay, so we'll focus on the Mighty Ducks then.
Okay.
So watching these movies over again as an adult. So as a kid, Rita, who's the name of Lauryn Hill's character in Sister Act 2, is fucking awful.
Yeah.
She's an awful human being. And kudos to Lauryn Hill for playing her that way, because she came off as a bitch. And for some reason, she's like the hero in the movie. And it's not like, because even so in this is a weird. Have you seen Drumline?
Yes.
So I made a joke some time back that Nick Cannon's a horrible person too, but at least in that movie, he learns that he's a horrible person.
Yeah.
So he adapts and changes. Lauryn Hill never learns she's awful. She just kind of cheats her way through, wins at the end of the day, and it's like all is forgiven. And I'm like, I've been on football teams where the star of the team is a fucking asshole shithead who skips practice and he still gets like his starting position. And I'm like, this guy's a fucking asshole. Like, fuck this guy. And the whole team resented him. But somehow the entire choir loved the character Rita, even though she was a shit person. Anyway, so now we go to Mighty Ducks. Charlie's not a shit person, mind you.
No.
Charlie's
the heart and soul of that team.
See, that's where... No. Charlie sucks, first of all. He's not the best on the team. He's not the second best on the team.
Okay.
Dare I say not... Huh?
This goes back to that meme you posted.
Maybe. But dare I say not even the third best on the team. Gordon Bombay just wants to fuck his mom, so he gets all the advantages. Meanwhile, you have Jesse Hall, who's the heart and soul of that team.
Yeah, he was such the heart and soul they didn't show up for the third movie.
Now, that aside, we're talking about number one. We're strictly number one. Because you can make the case in number two that Charlie is the soul of that team. In number two. Number three, Charlie's fucking unforgivable. Huh?
No, in three, he is the soul of the team. The problem is he refuses... No,
he's awful in number three.
Let me finish. He is awful. But it's a learning experience for him. He's transitioning. He is going from the team that he knows and loves, and he thinks, because he hasn't learned yet, that he can take what he knows as the Ducks captain from the first two movies and apply it to this new situation. And when it doesn't work, he freaks out.
Maybe, but it doesn't...
No, it's not a maybe.
But
that is what happens.
It doesn't... Okay, we're going off on a tangent, but sure, let's go on the fucking tangent. It doesn't fit his character, though. Like, I could see Goldberg doing that. Or even if Jesse...
change.
Huh?
Characters change. It's a good character.
No, characters develop, but they don't... But it has to be, like, it has to fit. That was not fucking Charlie. Anyway, fuck the third movie. We'll have a whole Mighty Ducks rant. But back to the first movie. Okay. Charlie's not good.
No, he's not.
He's not good. Jesse was like the man. Jesse was
a punk. Jesse was a troublemaker. He was.
Well, they were all troublemakers.
Not Charlie.
Yeah,
not
Charlie
Banks.
was in the first scene where they put the the dollar bill in the shit bag.
No, he wasn't.
Was he not? Yeah, he was.
No, it was Jesse. It was Averman. It was
Charlie he was there.
No, and it was the small one, Peter. It was those four.
I'm gonna fact check that.
Fact check it
later. Anyway, no, they were all little shit street kids in the hood who were causing shit. But Jesse was like the man. Like, I'm sorry, like he was the one when fucking Banks joined the team. He was like, "Prove yourself, motherfucker."
It wasn't prove yourself. It was class warfare.
But still, he was the one. And then everyone took his lead. Agree with him or not, everyone took his lead. Charlie was like, "Hi, welcome to the team." And everyone was like, "Charlie, sit the fuck down." Jesse was the man. Jesse should have taken that last shot. And Jesse should have been the captain going into number 2. Point being, back to Sister Act 2 in the first Mighty Ducks, these are two characters who did not deserve the praise they got from the people in the movie. And rewatching it as an adult, they shouldn't, like, there's no fucking way Charlie would take that last shot in the first movie. Bombay just wanted to fuck his mom.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Triple D, really stupid move. But beside the point.
It's a standard hockey move.
It's not it's not that magical Triple D thing.
It's not magic. It's not a knuckle puck. I'll say that right now.
It's not a knuckle puck. It's not a Fulton slap shot. But so similarly, so in that movie, Jesse should have been the focus, in my opinion. In Sister Act, do you remember Amal? Oh, Happy Day.
Yes.
That's everyone knows that fucking scene.
Yeah.
That guy, in the meantime, is like at class every day.
Uh-huh.
He's doing his hardest. He's developing as a character. He's leading the choir while fucking Lauryn Hill's Rita is out skipping school and shit. And then at the end of the day, Rita just steps in and takes the lead.
Yep.
That was Amal's choir.
I'll agree to that.
Amal and
Jesse. I will
Jesse.
not agree that the Ducks is Jesse's team.
Where in the first movie does Charlie take control of that team? Take your time.
No, I can't say he takes control.
He's not the heart and soul.
No, I will say the first Mighty Ducks, definitely not.
Yeah.
Until he makes that game-winning shot.
But he shouldn't have been picked for it. Even in the scene, everyone's like, pick Guy.
Yeah, pick Guy. Yeah. But Guy didn't want to do it. Guy was like, I don't want to do it.
No, I think Guy was like, yeah. And then he's like, how about Charlie? And everyone's like, the fuck?
Yeah.
That's the heart and soul of the team. Nobody wanted him to take that shot.
Gordon saw something. He saw the spark, man.
Fuck you.
He saw the spark. He needed to give the kid the opportunity to do it. And he did it.
Fuck you.
And nailed it.
Oh yeah, the magical triple deke.
The magic. Was it the Minneapolis Miracle Man or whatever the fuck they called him?
So hold on. We have time. Let's just talk about a small Mighty Ducks rant. So a guy picks up a team. By the way, just as a precursor, I actually love the fucking Mighty Ducks. I haven't seen the Netflix series or the Disney Plus series yet.
Yeah.
But I love the movies. With that said, the second movie, which is also my favorite movie, is utterly ridiculous.
Oh, dude, it's amazing how any of them stayed out of jail.
Well, there's that, but also like, okay, so kind of a tangent. When I first joined Pop Warner football as a kid, the first year I played, our team was dog shit. I think we won the first game and just lost terribly every other game. Yeah. The next season, we went like 5-3. It was just short seasons. By the third season, this team was together. We were going 10-1.
Damn.
So it was an improvement. Like we were fucking, and it was the same team for, like coming up together. Mm-hmm. So the Mighty Ducks, it just as a kid you don't think about it, but I was like, so this coach turns this team around, and suddenly like the Junior Olympics, if you will, are knocking at his door. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of ridiculous.
And it's like it's pee-wee hockey, so it's like it's not even like minors or majors. It's pee-wee. It's t-ball.
Yeah, and then not to mention, so okay, the Minnesota Miracle Man. So they get him to coach, and they're gonna take his whole team, or at least the majority of his team.
Yeah.
Like, don't you want the best
there were
from all?
spots that needed to be filled. Jesse's brother didn't come back.
There was a handful of. I call them the small guys.
The small guys, yeah. Peter didn't come back. Danny Tamborelli's character and his sister didn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Carp didn't come back. So that's 5 spots right there.
But my point being is like if you're gonna coach the national team, like you don't just take the championship team from the NBA to play in the Olympics. You pick the all-stars.
Yeah, that's true. Dream team. That's
what I mean. So you're just gonna pick like the majority of the team is this hole in the wall small team from Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then you'll cherry pick the rest. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's just stupid.
It's business, Mike. Don't worry about it. No, I mean I get it. Like if you're gonna get the guy like who brought this team to the championship, of course he's gonna pick a lot of the people on his team. Like you're gonna bring the team with you because
yeah, but
that's what made them great. It wasn't Bombay. Bombay helped, but it was the team that won.
Yeah, but that's not how it works.
Like you're keeping Goldberg as the goalie though. Fuck that.
That was dumb.
Especially when that
was stupid. Yeah.
Gaffney. You put Gaffney in. You don't put in a cold goaltender for the last penalty shot of the last game.
Well, that's what was kind of stupid about the whole movie anyway, is that Gaffney from day one showed that, like, you're not shooting past her.
Yeah.
And he still started Goldberg.
That's what I liked about the third movie. Like, the coach realized Goldberg fucking sucks.
Goldberg's garbage.
So he puts in Gaffney. And then, I like Goldberg on defense. Like, that's fine.
I thought that made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the third movie is a hot piece of shit. I still enjoy watching it. It's a hot piece of shit.
Oh, it is.
You just beat the Iceland Nazis.
The Iceland Nazis.
And you're getting knocked the fuck out by the senior team. The varsity. Like, I get the varsity are going to win their varsity, but like you won on an international level, and you can't compete with the varsity. And let me say something else. The varsity had a reason to hate these motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, no, I get it.
Cause like, do you remember when we were gonna like do the monologues, the Mighty Duck monologues?
Yes.
And like doing I'm still gonna write it one day. The backstory, like the stories you didn't hear. One of them was gonna be one of the varsity players. You go, these guys got my little brother kicked out of school. No, do you remember that though?
Yeah.
That's why they hated him, because all their the young guys they knew, all lost their spots on JV, because all their scholarships were ripped away and given to the Ducks. It's like, yeah, I'd fucking hate them too.
But at the end of the day, it's not their fault.
No, I get that, and the movie was over the top, but like this whole like, why do you hate us? Like we're on the same team. It's like, no, I'd be fucking pissed. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's rational. I'm just saying it's understandable.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mighty Ducks aside, Conway did not deserve to be the fucking heart and soul team in number one.
That's debatable.
It's Jesse.
It's not Jesse.
It's Jesse.
Jesse's a punk.
Who was the heart and soul of that team?
No.
You know who else is a punk? Fulton.
No, not really.
He's kind of a punk. He beat up kids.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he beat up the fucking the Hawks.
Yeah, 3-on-1.
He beat him up twice
because
they were picking on the other punks. He was King Punk.
He was King Punk.
You don't fuck with my punks.
They won't know what hit them.
Then he did his moan.
Hi guys.
All right, moving on.
I just think it's funny that guy grew up to be Foggy Nelson.
You know what? It took me a long not when he was Foggy, but it took me a long time to realize that actor was that guy.
Yeah.
Because like he was such like the hard ass badass Fulton, and then all the roles he took since, he's like a pussy.
Yep.
Anyway, time travel.
It's your topic, Coach. He's like you've been wanting to talk about this, and it's like it's you and me. We didn't have shit to talk about, so I wanted the bulk of our discussion to be about this because it's something we're very passionate about, and we've seen in a lot of movies from fucking Terminator to Endgame, and everything in between, and it's something that Hollywood just cannot agree upon. Like what are the rules? And it's like it's like they're cherry picking science to back it up. And like I just pretty much what I want to do in this discussion is create the rules for time travel in movies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I wish I had like a diagram. I'm okay with movies having different takes on time travel.
Okay.
I think in a previous discussion we discussed the Tomorrow War, to where it actually makes sense. They said, did you watch that movie?
I didn't.
Okay, but at one point they say like it's like a raft. If you drop two rafts into a river, no matter what, like you could just only connect to that going forward. You can't create new timeline or places to jump to. Kind of like the same in Outlander. To where it's like, this is where it's at, and it just goes forward. Like, that's it. So, like, if you establish your own rules, because those rules are different than Back to the Future has their own set of rules, which Back to the Future butchers their own rules. But and Marvel Endgame has their own rules, and they also butcher their rules. So I don't mind if movies make their own rules as long as they don't break them, and very rarely do they not break them.
Yeah. Like, part of the point of the movie is, like, we have to break the rules.
Well, I mean, like, the set rules of physics.
Okay.
In the movie. You create a set of rules, and you can't break them.
Yeah.
And so that's where, like, I mean, we talked about it before in Endgame, to where, like, Endgame's a fucking mess if you actually think about.
No, it's an absolute mess. But it was one of the funnest 3 hours I've ever spent.
Oh, I love it. But what other one? Like, I haven't seen Time Cop.
You have not seen Time Cop?
No.
Oh my god. They actually have a really cool rule where they say the same matter can't occupy the same space in time. So if you go back to visit yourself, and this falls on like the Back to the Future rule where like don't go back and say hi to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But what they say is the same matter, so you cannot occupy the same space as your past self. If you do, you'll create a paradox and ultimately destroy the universe.
So if you're going back in time, you have to go back to a time where you're not alive.
So, no, you can go back to a time where you're alive. You just can't interact with yourself.
Okay, got it.
And that I agree with. Unless you're going back to a time where you understand that time travel is possible. So it's like time travel is discovered tomorrow. All right? So if 10 years from now we travel back to tomorrow, I would be like, that would be the only reason I would understand. Be like, okay, if my future self comes back to me and I already know my past self knows that time travel is a possibility, I can't imagine losing my mind and creating paradox. Like, oh, no, yeah, they said time travel was possible.
I see.
So,
yeah, I don't know. So my personal opinion informs this. My personal opinion is that there is no possible way to travel back in time.
Yet.
I don't think there is. And if there is, it's already happened and there's one timeline. Like in a hypothetical, if a future me tried to go back and kill Hitler, that happened and I failed.
Yeah.
If that, you know what I'm saying? Like whatever is set is set.
Yeah.
Whoever's already gone back in time has gone, and this is the timeline we're on.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who killed JFK could have been a time traveler, but it happened. So there's not multiverses of different things. This is the one, and it happened.
So so you're thinking only third dimension. You're not thinking fourth dimension.
Even when I said the JFK thing, I was like, wait, I kind of just contradicted myself because then there's a reality where JFK lived and did all this stuff, and the guy went back and killed him.
So we only know history because we've only done it once.
Did you ever watch Fringe?
A few episodes here and there.
So Fringe the first season's kind of boring, but Fringe does get good in the later seasons where it's all like one big story. And it's been a long time since I watched it, so I forgot a lot of the details, but there is a point to where they have to do some time traveling.
Joshua Jackson goes back in time, and he makes Charlie Conway the captain of the Ducks.
Oh, fuck you. And wins the heart and soul of the Ducks.
Yep.
No, I forgot the details. Pretty much, they established that. Because do you remember like the agent guys who were from the future? The bald dudes?
No.
Anyway, they came back from the future to like fix shit. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So the old doctor was going to go into the future to solve that problem that they're having, the reason why they're coming back. And he said, in that timeline, we're going to go and live on. But in our actions, it's going to reset this timeline. So in doing so, they kind of created two timelines, but they kind of cut off that timeline, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I guess I can kind of see if there's like, to dub Marvel, one sacred timeline with offshoots.
Offshoots, yeah.
But there is one main timeline.
Yeah.
I can maybe fuck with you. But even then, I don't think a lot of people get that right.
Yeah.
I just don't like
Back to the Future 2 got that right with the Biff timeline.
Yes.
There were people that knew what happened after 1955, that being Doc and Marty, because they were the only two that could travel through time. So they already knew what the future was. And then Biff traveled back and altered that timeline, creating a tangent timeline. So, yeah, I would say that would only work because you have to have somebody who knows about time travel, who knows that there's a different future.
Yeah, otherwise, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But even I don't want to get into the whole intricate details of that one. I know in the third one, they fucked up.
Oh yeah, no, they fucked up.
It still bugs me. What was the teacher's name?
Hang on. Clayton.
Clayton.
Yeah.
So I forgot the details, and we'll talk about it another time. To where like her character just fucks up everything they did good about time travel. Because it was Clayton's ravine. Mm-hmm. Remember when they go back in time and it's like, wait, that was Clayton's ravine. Yeah, we talked about a school teacher that went in there. Yeah, well, you didn't because we just stopped her from going in. But then it was called I forgot. I have to go back in.
So it was called Shonash Ravine, which was the native name for it.
Yes.
And then they changed the name to Clayton Ravine after Clayton fell into it and died.
Okay, I think.
And then at the very end, it becomes Eastwood Ravine
because he
Marty's
went into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I remember, it's like if that's the case, though, it still didn't make sense. I forgot. I'm bringing the details back because when he finds Doc's the thing in the fucking paper, I'm blanking on goddamn names.
The letter.
Is what?
The letter?
Not the letter. No. Well, the letter, but when it announces his death, it says he survived by his beloved Claire.
Oh, Clara, yeah.
So, no, she didn't go into the ravine because he was survived by his beloved Claire.
Oh, because by Doc accidentally going back to 1885, he altered the timeline and actually met Clara.
No, he didn't, because the only reason why Clara was saved was because they were looking for ways to get back to the future. He wouldn't have been there to save her.
Yes, he would have.
No, he wouldn't have.
Because he was the one that was supposed to pick her up in the first place.
Yeah, but they weren't there. They were out in the fucking by the train tracks or whatever.
Because Marty came back and changed the
exactly, plans. But if Marty didn't come back, Doc would have been sitting at the station waiting for her, and she would have gone off the fucking track or off the ravine.
He would have been waiting at the station. The only reason Clara was in the wagon trying to get to town was because Doc wasn't there to pick her up.
I might have missed that. I have to go back and look at it.
They totally forgot because they hear the train whistle or they hear her scream, and he looks at his watch and he goes, "Damn, I was supposed to pick up the teacher." And then they hear her scream again, and he's like, "Oh shit, that's the teacher."
You might be right, but I'm gonna fact check.
No, I know I'm right.
Listen, Daddy, don't you dare present your facts.
I've thought about this, Mike. I have kept myself awake for many, many hours pondering this in the twilight hours.
The time travel thing?
Time travel, like every example we have, like, okay, so like, I'll just create thought experiments. Just like,
yeah.
What if Doc wasn't there? If Doc wasn't there, she would have gone into the ravine, thus fulfilling history.
Okay, no, hold on. So if Doc, hold on, never mind. I just disproved myself.
However, they do kind of restore order to the timeline because they eventually remove Clara from the timeline, making her a time traveler, so they can pop in and out whenever they need to, and thus sweeping the tracks away, so to speak.
I will say, and it's not, I get it, it's kind of the magical part of it, but like the picture where people were disappearing, I was kind of like, no,
that wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen like that.
No. I get it though. It was like the mystical part of it, but no.
The other thing that I want to like talk about is how Frequency kind of did the changing of history. You've seen the movie Frequency, right?
I saw it when I was very young, and I don't remember a lot about it.
Dude, it's such a good flick.
It was like he was communicating with his dad through the radio or something?
Through the radio. And so his dad died in a fire, because he's a firefighter. And so he's talking to him, and he realizes, oh shit, this is my dad, and he finds out what the date is because like he's watching a World Series game or something, and he's like, oh shit, that's the day of the fire. Look, you're gonna go to a fire. Go left. Go left. And he tells him, and his dad survives. So as a consequence of that, he's now flooded with new memories.
Okay.
He remembers his history, like the regular timeline, but now he has all of these new memories.
So you're kind of like the butterfly effect, where every time he changes it, he gets a rush of new thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that they haven't really shown. Like, would Marty and Doc remember that it was called Clayton Ravine if Clayton never fell into it?
Or would they would remember it, but now it's different? Because I can't speak to frequency, but I know in the butterfly effect, all these new memories would rush into his head, but he still remembered the other stuff.
Yeah.
So I will say, I think butterfly effect set rules and got it right.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but I think that movie actually it set some rules and then actually followed through with it, with maybe an exception of one thing. But I do think like that kind of followed the rules. I didn't have too much of a problem with that movie.
Okay. What about Terminator? Because Terminator's all about going back and changing things.
Well, that again, yeah. I almost feel like that one's kind of like the JFK thing, to where I don't believe personally in a multiverse, but that one creates a multiverse because in one timeline, well, actually, I don't know. Maybe it is a closed loop. I think because people have talked about the Terminator series and how forget past two, just 1 and 2.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like a paradox, because like you would think in theory that the humans were getting so fucked up that they resorted to this time travel, or the robots did, and the humans sent somebody too. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like they talk about it. I know number 3 is kind of cheating, or even 4, but like everyone knows, like what's his name? Reese. Mm-hmm. Reese knows. He's like, yeah, like John Connor gave me this photo of you, and he said that I had to be the one to go back. So like John Connor knew that Kyle Reese was his father and that he had to send this guy back.
Yeah.
But how else would he know that? Excuse me, hit my mic. How else would he know that if his mom didn't tell him that? So it is kind of a paradox of a closed loop.
Yeah.
So that one, I mean, we could sit here for fucking hours just trying to figure out how that works.
Yeah. It's so yeah, I would definitely say that the Terminator time travel is definitely a closed loop, in that no matter what Skynet does, everything they do will eventually lead to their downfall. Mm-hmm. All right, so they send a Terminator back. That's how they, fucking weaponize and mobilize Sarah Connor to raise her kid the way she raises her kid. That's how John Connor gets the knowledge and the experience to know how to defeat Skynet. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it essentially Skynet, kind of creates its own doom in that aspect.
Yeah, and I guess the JFK example is maybe bad, but like that's kind of how I view the world, is that if time travel existed, it's going to be closed loops. Mm-hmm. To where if there is branches, the branches are snipped.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you would have to. It would take a lot, because just your presence in the past. So if we were to go into the past, like they pick us to be the first people to go back into the past. Our presence there, as soon as we step foot in the past, we have changed things.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
We kick a rock that, a deer was supposed to trip on or something, thus allowing the mountain lion to eat. All right? We kick that rock, the deer doesn't slip on it, the mountain lion doesn't eat, and something cataclysmic. It's butterfly effect and chaos.
Butterfly effect,
yeah. Even the smallest change has the biggest results. Mm-hmm.
That's butterfly effect, yeah.
Yeah. But But yeah, so like that's all the fun I have with time travel. It's just like
it's fun. It's
ifs.
100%
Yeah.
fun.
Like even like the fun movies like was it In Time?
I didn't see
seen
that
one?
No.
That's I want to say Rachel McAdams, Domhnall Gleeson, Bill Nye, but the men in this guy's family have the ability to time travel, but they can only time travel so far, or else they change something permanently. So like, he decides to time travel and change something to when before his first child was born, and because he goes back before that time, he changes that, and his first child is never born.
Okay.
So like he freaks out and he's like, "What do I do? What do I do?" And he's like, "Well, I guess I should." He goes to his dad because his dad is kind of like, he knows all the do's and don'ts of time travel. He's like, "Well, you can't go back to this because you risk changing it. So
Sure.
everything you do, you have to do after, your children are born,
Yeah.
or you never have children."
I'll need to watch that one. There was, as silly as it sounds, one movie that got time travel. It's been a while since I watched it, but I remember going like, "Huh, interesting." Bill and Ted. I don't remember the details of the first movie, to be honest. I've never been a Bill and Ted like cult follower like a lot of guys are. Mm-hmm. But I remember watching it, and there was I forgot the exact like the scene, but it was towards the end of the movie, to where like they're running from people or something, and like they're confronted with someone going like, "I got you now," and it was Keanu Reeves. He's like, "Remember this moment," and all of a sudden like a trash can drops on the guy. And they're like, "Cool," and they run away, implying that he was like, "Remember this moment." And then maybe he thought, "I'm going to drop a trash can on his head," so that in the future, he went back in time to do that to save himself. Like, it was a silly moment, but I was like, that actually lines up. That checks out.
I want to say it was the second one.
It might have been. Like I said, I get them all confused.
Like the dude has a gun, and they're like, "Okay, we can play this game too." And it was essentially the battle of wits that Moriarty and Sherlock have, where they're predicting the fight before the fight ever happens. These guys are saying, "Okay, we know the rules of time travel. We're going to go back in time and change your gun for a fake one." And he pulls the trigger, and a flag with Bane comes out. He's like, "Ha! But now that I know that, I'm going to go back in time, and I'm going to give myself a backup gun." And he pulls a real gun out.
Sure, yeah. And it was obviously silly, but I remember in that moment, it was, I don't remember that part, but I remember like a trash can or something falling on somebody.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's clever. Like, that's clever, and it checks out."
Yeah.
But yeah, what was the movie? What's the fucking movie? Bruce Willis and
12 Monkeys.
No, Bruce Willis and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh, Looper.
Was it Looper? I was thinking Looper. I don't know why.
Yeah.
That movie.
Jumper, not Jumper.
Okay, I was thinking Jumper. That movie. They set rules. And they followed the rules. I just thought the rules were weird.
Yeah.
How like he was tracking down Joseph Gordon-Levitt because he was like remembering in real time. You know what I mean? Because like Joseph Gordon-Levitt would do something different, and then his memory would change. Like, oh, that's where he is. Like, it was kind of weird.
But as your future self, you don't want to go after your past self, because if you do,
well, I think
you lose your existence.
But if I recall, I think he was going after his past self to like stop him,
or to like talk to him and be like, "Hey, you got to stop."
I think that's what it was. Because remember when they meet at the diner, he's like, "You fucking idiot! Like, you're doing the wrong shit. Like, you blah blah blah. You're gonna get her killed." The woman he meets. I'll have to watch it again. I remember liking that movie, but I feel like they set time travel rules and they followed them. It was just weird rules.
Yeah, very weird.
Like the one guy was walking and his like body was falling apart.
Yeah.
Because they had like they captured an earlier form of him or some shit.
Yeah, they captured an earlier form, and he didn't close his loop.
That's right. He was the older guy who got away, and then so they got the younger guy, and started fucking torturing him.
Yeah, cutting like messages into his skin and then taking limbs.
Yes.
The way they shot that, by the way, was fucking phenomenal.
Oh, it's cool. It was a cool scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the real time, I don't know if I like that or not. I mean, it was shot cool, but I mean the real time changes to where like, I think even Joseph Gordon-Levitt was like carving stuff into his skin to like tell some shit to Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I like that, but it was cool.
The same thing happened in Frequency.
Right.
Like they had like not only did they have like the same radio, and that's how they were communicating, but he would etch messages into the table, and you would watch it like, and it would still be hot from him like doing it in real time. They also did like dude got shot and blew off his hand, and then like you see the guy in the future and his hand just like withers away into a nub.
See, and that's where it gets kind of weird because like, okay, Butterfly Effect actually did this wrong too. Would it happen instantaneously to where like you look at your hand, you're like, oh my god, or if you're some random person, that's just how it's been? So for instance, Butterfly Effect. The rule the Butterfly Effect establishes is that when he goes back in time and changes something, that's how it's always been.
That's how it's always been, yeah.
So
except for the people on the outside, the audience, him.
Of course.
Whoever knows about what's going on.
Sure. So if you recall, this is the one scene I think they got wrong in that movie, and it worked for the scene, but when he's in prison, he has like the one page of his journal, and he tells his cellmate like, hey, you need to help me because I have a spirit, like I have a holy mission. And he's like, whatever. And he's like, watch. And so he takes out the one page of his journal, reads it to go back in time, and he's like in his class as a kid, and he walks over to like the little, I forgot what they're called, where you stab a ticket on it, or you put stab a paper on it.
Like a receipt holder? Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. And he pulls them out, and he jams both his hands on them. And then so then when he snaps back to the present time, his cellmate, who's like kind of like a spiritual Mexican guy, is like, oh my god, and sees the scars appear on his hands.
And you're Jesus.
Yeah, but like, according to their rules, those scars would have already been there then.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like the fact that they just appeared breaks their own rules.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that applies to Frequency or whatever. But,
yeah, and the unfortunate thing is, we're never gonna know. We are never going to know because time travel is theoretically impossible. It's something that could never happen.
I think using cryogenics and shit, I think you could go forward in time.
Oh yeah,
but not back.
But that's not time travel. That's preservation.
Sure, but that's my point. Is I don't think you can physically take a body and go through time. I think the only possible way to do that is through cryogenics, which, like you said, it's not really time travel. It's just
Now there are people who speculate that once we achieve, light speed, and light speed plus, maybe, but you would need to be able to move ridiculously fast.
But because even then, how do you? And granted, I'm not a fucking scientist. But how do you? So I want to go forward and back in my car. I could turn my car. I could point in directions. How do you point in the past?
Yeah, that's true. Like there's no direction to go.
Yeah. So even if, like in your example, even if you can go 1,000 times the speed of light, the speed of light times more than the speed of light.
Yeah.
You still can't go in reverse. You're just gonna get where you're going quicker.
Yeah.
I'll just be able to travel across the universe in a second.
Yeah.
But there's no mechanism to literally go back in time.
Yeah, there's no such thing as a time circuit. You can't input your destination and just
exactly
wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. You're there. It doesn't quite work like that.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought of when Superman just flew so fast around the Earth at reverse time.
Time by spinning the Earth on its axis the opposite way, which would kill literally everybody on the planet.
Oh, it would be a fucking disaster, yeah. But like that was silly, of course. But yeah, like you can't do that. There's not a mechanism to reverse the flow of time, which is why I don't believe. I mean, it's fun, it's cool sci-fi, but that's why I don't believe that it exists. Because I'm repeating myself. But even if you found to go the light speed times light speed times light speed, that's not. You're just. How do I put it? Have you heard of the concept of approaching zero but never hitting zero?
Yes.
That's the concept. That's just the faster you go, you're never going to cross into the negative.
Yeah.
You're just going to make that time gap smaller.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're just going to get to where if you have a target, you're just going to get there faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, but you're never going to go back.
You're never going to go back, yeah.
If that makes sense.
You're never going to cross that threshold.
Yeah, you're never going to cross zero.
I always have fun with my students, and I always ask them, hey, what's the distance between 0 and 1? And they're like, 1? And I'm like, no, it's infinity. There's literal infinite amount of integers between 0 and 1. It's
well, that's a different question.
How small do you have to get?
That's a different question. You could say, oh, actually, if you're not counting 0 and 1, just in between them, then yeah.
0.1, 0.12, 0. And all the way, it goes infinitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why you can never get to 0. You can only get closer.
Yeah, and that's what I mean with like the light shot, the speed of light shit. Like you can only get closer and closer and closer, but you're never going to be able to go back.
Yeah. This is why we can't divide by 0.
Yeah. That's the best analogy I can think of. And like I said, even if someone could find out a way to, I'm a subscriber of the Terminator closed loop paradox.
Closed loop.
That
you can only create closed loops.
So there might be, like I said, branches in our lives or whatever. Like maybe I went back in time, and instead of spending, I don't know, maybe I went to school at UCLA, and something bad happened. So I went back, changed my destination, pushed my former self into going to UNLV instead. And that's where we are at now. But then that branch of history or whatever is now inaccessible. So this is the sacred timeline.
Yeah. Like you can only go back and change one thing at a time.
Or just there is one timeline, but it's kind of already set because all the time travel has already happened. Mm-hmm. So there's other things that have happened.
Go ahead.
What? No, like there's other things that have happened, but because of all the time travel that has happened already, now we're on the sacred timeline. Mm-hmm. Because they kind of, that in Marvel, it's kind of what has kind of happened.
Yeah.
Is that they've already clipped all these branches so that there is one timeline. Those branches do exist, but they're just inaccessible. Mm-hmm. So they're on their own. Until Loki goes and does his thing, and that's a whole other conversation.
There was a quote I saw that said, if time travel exists, then it has always existed. Meaning that the first time travelers probably went so far back and changed. They probably went so far back to create life on Earth.
Maybe.
Or whatever. Whatever explains why we're here talking about this now is because somebody went back and changed something.
Well, and that's what I'm kind of talking. That's kind of what I'm talking about too. Is that if time travel will eventually be invented, that all the time traveling has been done.
Yeah.
And like this is now where the course we're set on now is because all the time traveling already happened.
And we'll never know who the time travelers are or what their goals are. They're going to do a job, and they're doing it as we speak.
Well, and that's where I actually I think this is kind of Marvel's idea with the what was the time travel the group that keeps the sacred timeline.
The TVA.
TVA, yeah. Is that I think that eventually, if time travels exist or time travel is invented, which I don't think it will be, that there will be eventually like, okay, we fucked up enough shit. We have to go back and fix all this so that this disaster doesn't happen. And that's the timeline we're on now.
Yeah.
That all this wrecked shit already happened because of time travel. And then the people who were responsible for it figured it out, or maybe some generations later, went back and corrected the course. And that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Like it already happened. The mistakes were already made.
But yeah, you got to wonder then, like, who decides what mistakes to fix and what mistakes to leave alone? Because the Hitler example is a perfect example. It's like, who decided that he needed to stay alive? For what reasons?
I could give you reasons
right now. The
situation
in Ukraine right now, and Putin being the leader of Russia. Who decided that needed to happen? Mm-hmm. That it was a good idea to leave, to leave Trump as president for 4 years. Like,
well, I think
that was a good idea.
I think it would be less of let's fix what we think are bad things that happened, and more so let's correct things that we tried to correct.
Okay.
Like if like your example, and I see it with In Time where he accidentally fucks up and his son isn't born.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't try to go back and make his son better. He just goes back and fixes it so his son is born. That kind of thing.
I believe so. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if that happens in the movie. I'm just saying as an example. That these people... Go on.
It would almost sound like, you know how in Avengers, we keep coming back to Avengers, Thor says like the Earth is under my protection, and Loki kind of like makes fun of him for it. It's like, look at this place. And he's like, yeah, but it's people doing it to people. It's nobody from the outside coming in and fucking it up because I'm watching that. So when somebody from outside of Midgard comes to try to fuck up Midgard, that's when I step in. So I think like if somebody uses time travel to mess up the timeline, that is the only time that, you know, our time cops can jump in and fix it.
Yeah, that's my belief. And I think at the end of the day, it would turn into a Terminator situation where it's a closed loop.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
If that makes sense. Yeah, because I mean, it's really complicated. But yeah, I think that's what it would be, is that they would become time cops.
Time travel!
And it's complicated and weird. And
yeah.
I think if I ever saw a future of myself walk in, I would actually just be like, oh, okay. Like, okay.
Why? What did I fuck up?
I'm like, no, I must have done something right if I was picked to time travel.
Married. Oh, that's too long of an awkward pause.
I was taking a drink. I was taking a sip. But yeah, my gripe, because you said it was my idea to talk about it in the when we discussed it before. My gripe is mainly just movies not being consistent.
Yeah.
Because like I said, with Marvel, not just with Endgame, but the way they're, in my opinion, doing the multiverse thing. Because the multiverse thing is pretty much based on time travel. You literally can't have a multiverse unless time travel exists, in my opinion. Which is why I don't believe that a multiverse exists in this life.
Well, I'm not too sure about that. Because multiverse has more to do with the abstract concept of possibility.
But that's my point. Like, you don't get that unless something changes. Like,
it's literally every decision you ever made creates a universe.
In Magic Land. But in reality...
Well, we don't know. Magic is just science that hasn't been discovered yet.
Then it's science. But in reality, if I decide what pair of shoes am I wearing today, and I pick the black Vans, I don't know, that's the pair of shoes I wear today.
Yeah.
That's
our objective reality.
But there's not some imaginary existence that just appears that picks a different pair of shoes.
We don't know.
No, what would happen...
That's why it's a theory.
No, in the multiverse theory, it would require time travel, because then someone would come back and fucking put something in my head the day before that I like the white shoes more than the black shoes. And then when I pick the shoes, I pick the white shoes. Now there is actually two different realities. That's how you create a multiverse. It's through time travel.
Yeah. Okay.
In my opinion. Otherwise, it's just the one choice. Unless you're in Marvel, and then just it's happening.
Yeah, and then it's everything everywhere all at once. Another time travel movie.
I didn't see that one.
Neither have I, but I really want to.
I heard really good things.
Yeah.
All right. That's it.
I think I'm exhausted. My head hurts. I want a beer. I want to jump on and play some mindless video games.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
All right.
We'll see everyone next time. Yeah, later.
Thanks for watching.